My name is Jeremy Snow, and I'm the president of TEDxNashville. And I'm excited for you to be here and part of the very first TEDx Mixtape, which is a collaboration with the Come Together Music Project. This is part of the new TEDxNashville membership. And if you are a member, it's great to see you. If you're not a member, now is your chance. So we'll talk a little bit about what that is later on. But I just wanted to thank everybody for being here. And I don't want to take up too much time at the beginning. We've got a really great event planned with Mayor Freddie O'Connell and with Devon Gilfillian. I wanted to set up a little bit of how this event came to be. Shaka Mitchell is the founder of the Come Together Music Project and the podcast. And he knew, he gave his own TED Talk with us 8 years ago. And he reached out to tell me about this project. And it's based on this idea that sometimes we don't have the words to express how we feel. So why do you love your partner? What does your city, what does your home mean to you? Sometimes it's hard to articulate, and a song can do the job. But then by sharing that song, you start to learn something about yourself, about other people, and you start to have this sort of back and forth. So I love the vision that Shaka has, and I hope that he tells a little bit about how that idea started, because I think it's a really cool story. But with that, I just love to have Shaka come up here and kick us off. Yeah.
Well, good evening. I'm really excited to be with you. Thank you so much to Jeremy Snow, Executive Director of TEDxNashville. I'm really pumped to put on this mixtape event, this special program. Also, thank you to Analog for this great space. Maybe a hand clap for the folks at Analog for putting that together. As Jeremy mentioned, the first time that I worked with TEDxNashville was 8 years ago. It's when I had the privilege of giving my own TED Talk. And I was talking about the thing that has occupied my time for most of the past 20 years. It's the thing that I'm especially passionate about. It's education. I'm really passionate about making sure all kids have access to an education that best meets their needs, right? And so I spent a lot of time over the years thinking about how we better prepare our children for the world around them. But in recent years, I've become just as interested in making sure that the world is prepared to welcome our children after they're in school. And so that's why I'm really excited about this project and to share another passion of mine with you. This time it's not education, it's music. Because music helps us deepen existing relationships and create new ones. Music builds bridges across socioeconomic, political, generational divides. Music helps us come together. Right, so let me give you a little bit of background about how this project came to be. So it's 2020. As we all remember, unfortunately, COVID hits, and like many of you, I was sort of struck by the loss of that human connection and human interaction. Right? It wasn't just lives that were lost during COVID, but our social cohesion and connectivity was really dwindling. At the same time, the world was more divided than it had ever been. Political polarization was at an all-time high. It's only gotten worse since then. I don't know if you know, but nearly 40% of Gen Z avoids spending holidays with family because they don't want to be around contentious conversations. So that was the climate when I and some friends started doing something we called Song Swap. So on a monthly basis, we would get together in my friend's driveway, socially distanced at first, and beforehand we would send around a few agreed upon song categories. Then every person would send their links to go with those categories. We'd get together and we'd listen. And so, for instance, that first time we did Song Swap, one of the categories was a guilty pleasure. And let me tell you, you will learn a lot about someone when you ask them what they listen to when no one else is around. In fact, we learned a lot about many of you because we asked you to submit a song that was a guilty pleasure before you came tonight, and we were listening to some of those as you made your way in. In my case, I found out that my group of friends, American middle-aged men, were all Swifties. It is what it is. Another time we got together, the song category was a song that I hate. And in this case, for me, I didn't have to hesitate. It was immediate. I knew what it was going to be. Montel Jordan has always been so corny to me. This was immediate. I didn't have to, think about this for more than 2 seconds about the song that I hate. But here's the thing. As fun as it was to listen to new music, it didn't take long to realize that something more powerful was happening. Right? We were deepening our relationships through this medium, through this art form. Why? Because music really primes us for deeper connection. So, it's not that I think that we're going to leave this session or any come-together music session and we're going to resolve all of our disagreements or that we're going to gain consensus. But music allows us to both share with one another and to listen. That's the start of empathy, right? My hope is that tonight you see that this format allows us to regain trust, to rebuild some connection because we are humanizing one another through the music. I know that we're going to have a fun time. I know it's midweek, it's Wednesday night, but if the spirit moves you, please clap your hands while the music's going. If you feel like you need to get up and move and dance, that's even better. We mean for this to be really an immersive experience. And so, without any further ado, I want to invite our guests up here. Our first guest is Grammy-nominated, Nashville-based musician Devon Gilfillian. He's originally from outside the Philadelphia area. He's released 3 full-length albums, which I absolutely encourage you to get. And he's supported the underserved community in Nashville. Devon. Joining Devon is the Honorable Freddie O'Connell. He is the 10th mayor of Metro Nashville and Davidson County. Prior to that, he served on the city council. He is a graduate of Brown University, where he got a degree, actually 2 degrees, in music and computer science, as one does. So really excited to welcome Mayor O'Connell. Okay, so let me explain the format a little bit. It's really very similar to those original song swap sessions. We're going to present a category. Our guests have had these categories ahead of time. They've submitted music. We're going to listen to a little bit of that, and then we're going to learn why in the world would you have picked that song. No, these are not embarrassing songs, though they might not be for your liking. I don't know. We're going to learn a little bit about these 2 gentlemen. So, for the first category, we know that music affects the mood in a room, right? Retail stores play certain music because it makes you want to spend more time in the store, right? Or maybe it makes you want to spend money at a frenetic pace. And so for this first category, I asked you to share a song that you would play if you were a DJ. If you were a DJ and you needed to get everybody on the dance floor, what is that song that you would play? So, Devon, why don't we start with you?
This is how we do. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I had to. That was a hot take right there.
I
don't
know
take.
that anybody tonight is going to generate a hotter take than you hating that song.
I know, but I need a trigger warning if you're going to just start
it.
singing it.
The song that I chose, if I was a DJ at a party, I wanted to get everyone on the floor. I chose September by Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Let's do it. Great song. Great selection. Great selection. Yes.
Thank
yes.
you, Shaq.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, why? Tell us about that.
I know it's a cliche. I know it might be played at every wedding. But that honestly, that is why I chose it. Is because my dad is a wedding singer, and
Really?
Truly. Well, that was one of his jobs. I shouldn't say that was his main thing. He started out in the bands back in the '80s, and he was a wedding singer my whole life. And he was the one who really inspired me to do this, to be a musician. And I'd find myself, walking around school singing Earth, Wind and Fire, and everybody would be like, "What are you singing over there?" But I also just that song. It doesn't matter how old you are, young, old, what age you are. You hear it, you're getting on the dance floor.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that guy who did like every year for years would make a video where he was like inside a box truck and doing crazy versions of just like a solo dance video? Maybe some people would come in, but it was some of the most creative, like early viral content, right? I will send you some info.
Please.
It's really amazing. And it was like a dedicated, I'm going to do this every year. And it's like, that's going to be my thing. And it just got bigger and bigger and more elaborate. And it was wild.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's commitment. Now, Devon, have you ever done that song? I mean, you are a professional and touring musician. Have you ever done that in a concert?
I love that. Actually, I did. I actually have done that song, but I did it on a cruise ship. I got to do this cruise festival called Cayamo, and I actually got to bring my parents. I brought my mom and dad, and we hosted a funk or a disco night actually, and I got my dad to come up and sing September, and that was such a magical moment.
Which one of you goes higher?
He does.
Phenomenal. It's a great song, and you're exactly right that that is one of those sort of intergenerational songs. I was listening to that song, taking my middle daughter, who's 13, picking her up from school, and I don't know, for whatever reason that week I was on an Earth, Wind and Fire kick, and we were listening to it, and 13. Just in case you forgot, it continues to be a really weird time, okay? But we were listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire. She took my sunglasses, put them on, and was just like vibing. Just really feeling herself listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire.
It's got that effect.
It does.
It's got that effect.
It does.
You don't hate that one, right?
I do not. Listen, don't tell Montel Jordan. He's a tall man, by the way. Anyway. Okay. So September, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Well, Mayor, what about you? If you were a DJ, what is a song that you pick to get everybody on the dance floor?
This is one of those, at risk of overthinking it things, because I thought about the wedding phenomenon, but it's almost more like, okay, what have I personally experienced where you kind of saw people come together around it? And so I went with Paul Oakenfold and Starry-Eyed Surprise.
Great, let's hear it. Yeah,
I love that.
Dance all night to this DJ.
I mean, it explains it, right?
Yeah.
It's a simple idea.
Yeah. Okay, now for the uninitiated, you've got a little DJ experience.
Little.
A little is more than zero.
Sure, more than zero.
Talk to us about that. How did that come about?
So I'm very lucky. My dad, singer-songwriter, but grew up, both my parents, music lovers. We had, a piano, other instruments in the house, and there is still in my parents' house, multi-shelf bookcase full of vinyl. And so we'd hear that. Then I got to see, my dad was a radio DJ at different points when we were growing up. So kind of got to experience that from just putting together a playlist, a mix, making it all work, having maybe a story to it. And then in college, literally lived across the hall for a whole year from a professional DJ and kind of got to see what he was up to, equipment he had. But yeah, I think it's just so much exposure to music, enjoying the process of watching it play out, getting to know some DJs, some friends of friends. And as happened on Record Store Day last year, I kind of said, I was talking to a guy and he was in a set that I was, right before me. And he was like, yeah, I'm not a DJ. I just sometimes spin records in front of people. And I was like, okay, I like that a lot better. That's because I would never. We have so many actual, really talented professional DJs in Music City, and I would never want to steal their valor.
What would your DJ name be?
Yeah, there's a reporter in the room. We're not going to go there.
I'll tell you what, though. I do feel like, I'm sure somebody in the room can help us with this. I feel like a T-shirt that sort of says, maybe my mayor is a better DJ than your mayor. I would wear that.
No, you would.
That's a bipartisan T-shirt.
Sure, but that's not. I still feel like I'd much rather be like, my mayor built a transit system, right? So. Now, I will say that one of the stories rewinding on that song is it was a very surreal experience, even having grown up in Nashville, to see Paul Oakenfold live at Municipal Auditorium, of all places, about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was wild.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. May I ask, I'm not sure if your parents are still alive.
Yeah, they're still in the house I grew up in, saw them over the holidays.
Did your dad still sort of stay engaged with music?
Oh, yeah. He's done stuff. He's played with a little, almost like a house band, volunteering at Room in the Inn, just kind of, offering music in different spaces. He's played around at different parks and community centers with some retired guys. He's been volunteering for Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum, and found a guy who they've started co-writing some stuff. He'll still every now and then put out a new album of his own stuff, and it's really neat to see him now retired, still kind of leaning into that thing that was always, somewhere in that space between hobby and side hustle.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thank you. I do want to take one very small moment of privilege because you brought up a new transit system. I kid you not, my 10-year-old asked me to give this to you. To Nashville's mayor.
Okay.
So take a look at that later. It may be related to, potholes on Shelby Avenue where we live. But anyway, that is...
Do I need to tell your 10-year-old son about Hub Nashville?
Oh, listen, we would take all the advice you got for getting these.
Just make sure he knows make sure she knows we know where the potholes are, and we will get to them in 2 business days or less.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for.
I don't want the potholes to be there, so I'm happy for her to report them.
She will do that. Well, thank you. Well, okay, so let's move on to our next category. Well, for this next category, I want to explore sort of a different dimension. I want to explore the dimension of time. It said that every memory has a soundtrack all its own. And so I asked you two to think about a song that takes you back to your middle school days. And Mayor, why don't we start with you this time?
Sure. This is, as soon as I saw it, it was sort of, this one is the one that leapt out, not necessarily for how I was thinking about music myself in middle school, but how the social process of music happens. This is very much that song that a friend brought to a small group of us. That group got bigger, and then all of a sudden the song was everywhere. And it's one of those that makes you think, how did he know? How was he there first? But it was one of those too where you're like, oh, I heard that a long time ago, because this guy kind of did it before it popped. And what's so unique about that song is it's everybody's middle school song. Doesn't matter when you were born. I don't know how it has that effect, but it's like, oh yeah, sure, whenever.
Yes. That is great. I remember we were about the same age, and when Ice Ice Baby came out, there would be competitions during recess where we would see who knew the lyrics the best and who could say them the fastest. Mateo Young was great at this, or whatever. I remember that. He was super good at Mateo at Ice Ice Baby.
Well, and this was so interesting because this was introduced to us by my friend Saba, who had one of the most fascinating personal stories of, fleeing Iran to get to Nashville. Like that was part of his history, and it was so amazing to think about what I knew about him and his story and his family story, and knowing him in middle school, and then also to have him be tapped into a thing where it's like, oh man, he's actually way ahead of so many other people in terms of access to culture.
Yeah, and what an amazing thing too that music helps our recall, right? So that you remember your friend Saba, the specific person who introduced you to this song that was, a flash in the pan in some ways, but takes you back there.
This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Erasure is what you're doing right now.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ice Baby. Pretty amazing. Devon, you picked a fantastic song too that took you back to middle school. Tell us what it is. We'll listen to it, and then tell us a little about why.
So I chose Casey and JoJo, All My Life.
I think he's sneaking around actually DJing weddings, and I want to start crashing them, I think is what I want.
Come on, listen.
I thought I really hope that there are no little boys like Devon in my daughter's middle school. Because this guy, quite the Casanova. All right, tell us about this.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, this song was blowing up back in, 99 when I was 9, 10 years old.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just remember this was like the first time that I discovered slow dancing. And when this song came on, like everyone was dancing fast, and then all of a sudden, All My Life came on.
Yeah.
And then everyone was looking around. All the kids were looking around at each other.
What are we gonna do?
And I was this little chubby guy. I didn't have anybody to dance with, really, until probably like the 10th time that song came on down the road, months later. But yeah, no, it introduced me to slow dancing.
He had been doing Earth, Wind, and Fire for so long, and then he hears this, right? It's up tempo, and he's like, now I got this whole thing.
Yeah. For both of you, when you were in middle school, what was did you have interest in music? I mean, you're from musical families, but was that just sort of like a little pilot light at that point, or was it a more than that?
I would say I definitely was interested in music. Like I said, my dad was a singer in a wedding band, and so music was always around. And I remember doing a project actually when I was in 6th grade, where they were like, all right, you have to research a career and look up, what kind of money you make and all that. And I was like, I'm gonna look up. I want to be like Pharrell. I want to be a music producer, And I looked it up, and then like, I think in the book that they gave us, it said like music producers make $40,000 to $60,000 a year, and I was like, what? No, man, Pharrell's making mad money. This is what I want to do. And so I really remember then that I wanted to do music. I wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in that same way, right, growing up in a household where music was everywhere, and knowing about our parents' vinyl collection, my dad had a reel-to-reel that he would work on demos on. And then, that experience of buying your first cassette and then eventually your first CD, and nobody's going to have that experience right now, right? I mean, I guess you could still, now that vinyl's kind of come back, you could do that, but it's like, who's going to remember their first stream the same way, right? I mean, it's a different kind of point of access, but I still remember there were so many different things, right? It was like stuff that was showing up, like playground stuff that we had the first round of where we were trading cassettes back and forth, and that was Fat Boys, Run DMC. I remember Rattle and Hum hit our playground, and then like going to middle school and having Jams and Ice Ice Baby, but also actually my first cassette I ever bought was R.E.M's Green, down the road at what was at one point Turtles, Cats, and then just past middle school, the first CD I bought at the Great Escape, and it was The Cure, The Head on the Door, and so it's like, it's an interesting envelope of like hearing what's happening at school, hearing what's happening on terrestrial radio, which was the only other thing we had, and then the tower listening stations.
Yeah, the tower, tremendous. Yeah. R.I.P. I mean, it does also strike me that there was a real benefit to the tactile nature of music and how we shared music.
So I'm interested in this from your standpoint in the COVID song swap. I mean, what is that Spotify links? Is that song titles? Like, how does that manifest?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. I mean, what we would do is we would send the links to the friend, whoever's house we were meeting at. We'd send these links in. They would put the playlist together, and it would be either on iTunes or Spotify. But the nice thing was, then we would send around that playlist to everybody, right? So if you look at my playlist, I've got this archive month to month, right? And now I hear one of those songs, and I think about one of my friends who picked that song, even if it's not something that's in my normal rotation, right? It is so sticky. And so we would share that, but a little bit different than like making the mixtape for someone.
Right. It's funny. I almost feel like my instinct would be maybe I go find a bunch of like extremely cheap and old iPod minis and start loading them up with things, because you want to give somebody sometimes that gift of just a handful of songs that might be meaningful. And it's actually shockingly hard right now.
It is.
You can send a playlist, but that's not quite the same thing.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think that there's a real benefit, not to get too philosophical about this, but I think there's a real benefit of people actually being in proximity with one another. I mean, you had to go up to your friend and say, hey, when are you going to give me my CD back? Right? Because that thing costs a lot of money. It was like $17 and about 3 pounds of plastic around that thing, right?
Me and my brother would just steal each other's CDs. It was war.
And it was the dumbest thing, because me and my brother would be like, all right, damn it, he bought that one. Do I really want to buy my own copy of that?
That's right.
I'm gonna burn it. I'm gonna burn this CD.
Well, thanks for sharing those songs and kind of giving us a little bit of a glimpse into what are some challenging years for most of us, the middle school years with those songs. I want to continue to explore music as a soundtrack to these pivotal events and relationships. And so we're gonna sort of take a turn now. And I asked you to think of a song that you'd associate with someone or something that you lost. And so this time, Devon, we'll start with you.
This is heavy, but in 4th grade, I had a crush on Bridget McDonald.
Bridget.
And I found out that she had a crush on Steve Scholl. And my heart was broken. And honestly, I think for like a month straight, I just listened to Bob Marley, Waiting in Vain.
All right. Well, let's feel your pain here. So a month back then was an eternity, really.
Yeah. No, I was going through it.
Yeah.
I was going through it.
Yeah.
I was going through it.
So when you thought about loss, you sort of thought about kind of like an unrequited love.
I did. I thought of like the first time that my heart was like broken, and the first time I felt that, and the first time music healed that. And I know it's such a like silly little thing, right? But like music has such a, like, even when you're in 4th grade, like a 9-year-old falling in love, like you never think how Bob Marley, would speak to a 9-year-old in that moment, and he did.
And it was just a few years before the slow jams kicked in, too.
Yep. Yeah. He got me through it. It was like, Bob was like, you're going to get ready. Don't worry. Casey and JoJo's coming.
Now, Mayor, you're a dad. Is this something that, as a parent, you've had to experience yet, and sort of, shepherding, someone else through that first heartache? And if not, how do you think about that? Have you thought, how are we going to navigate that?
It has been actively happening in our older daughter's social circle, but not in a way that I think has hit her yet. But some very close friends of hers have gone through that sort of first round of high school intensity of feeling.
Yeah. Well, it's coming, for sure.
Yeah. That's why I'm glad that there is also a mother in the house.
Yeah. Yeah, but this I mean, what you're describing, Devon, I think it's got to be a near universal experience, right? That we sometimes forget just how universal it is. So, you know, if you kind of picture someone in your mind's eye who maybe is not even a friend of me, just somebody that you frankly cannot stand, just do not like, or is just hostile. That person at some point went through that kind of heartache also, right? And I think that's a really helpful thing to remember when we're engaging with people and interacting with folks, is that heartache is universal.
Unless they're dead inside.
Unless they're dead inside. Looking at you, Montel Jordan. Yeah. Okay, so Mayor, why don't you tell us the song that you picked? We'll listen to it, and then you tell us a little bit about why.
Yeah, this is Beautiful Small Machine, So Long to You. And I would say it's a little more abstract, and we can talk about that, play it, and then
maybe we talk about some of the lyrics. Okay, here it is. So Long to You, Beautiful Small Machines.
Yeah, so this one hit me, I think, right in that period of COVID. And so it's interesting because it's a little more abstract, because I felt like my COVID experience was so much that one of we had been through all this transition where you could have just about anything you wanted at your fingertips if you had an internet connection, right? Like you could watch anything, you could get access to books even if you didn't have access to libraries or bookstores, you could find music streaming. But I realized not that many months into it, the thing that I was experiencing the most melancholy about was the loss of my friends, the loss of community, the loss of the ability to be with other people. And I don't know, I heard this song. It came up somewhere kind of randomly, and it hung with me. It had a haunting effect. And it wasn't about one specific person so much as that just feeling of profound loss of so many people. And then it got even worse once I started to go through the period of being back with people, but also starting to see people go through really tough family-based traumas and have some in our family. And so, I don't know, the song always stuck with me in that way.
Yeah, thank you. That was a really pretty song. I didn't know that song before you sent it over, and yeah, I really appreciated the lyrics.
And it's interesting because most of the song you would almost just hear as a little bit of a lament, but the way it actually opens grounds it in the whole EP is a little bit about our relationship with technology too, and I thought that was also a really kind of interesting piece of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Are there things that still kind of reflecting sort of personally, or maybe even across the city? I don't need you to always have your mayoral hat on, but are there things that you feel like we still haven't recaptured or regained?
Are you kidding me? I don't think any of us have processed the trauma of COVID. Like, I mean, look at the country, right? I mean, sure. we are going through it. And it's hard. It's hard to grapple with the fact that, you know, we could barely buy groceries for a few weeks. We could barely even think about how to get food on our table. We could barely process the fact that we might say goodbye to loved ones through cards and not actually be able to be physically present with them. I mean, we went through that in our family. It's excruciating, and I don't think we have ever meaningfully grappled with it. And the worst part of it all is that, you know, you talk about polarization. I think our politics in some ways prevented us from accessing the grief, the sense of loss and what we've lost as a not just, you know, community at a municipal and city level, but really, bigger picture.
Yeah, that's really well put. Thank you. Yeah, Devon, what was that time like for you? That sort of COVID, particularly the initial kind of those first 2 years were brutal.
I mean, it was like getting, like for everybody, it was like getting the wind knocked out of the sails, and I was with Capitol Records and putting out my first album. I turned 30, and everything was on the up, and it came crashing down so quickly. We had Bonnaroo and South by Southwest, all these amazing opportunities lined up, and that came down just like it did for everybody. But in that moment, I really had to figure out who I was. Like, what does it mean to be a musician in this time? And how do I connect with people without being on the road and being on stage? And social media, obviously, that was the big thing. And it very much made me re-question and realign and figure out who I was and why I'm doing this music.
And I think that's all of those reflections and the way you kind of opened us, right? The idea of Song Swap being something you did while social distancing. I mean, what a blessing that we should not take for granted that we can do this, right? I mean, it's extraordinary to get access back to one another.
Yeah, absolutely. Devon, I'm curious as to whether or not, or maybe how, I'm sure it does, but how does loss kind of weave its way into your art?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. I loss to me, I'm definitely one of those guys that's so happy and jolly and always has a smile but I definitely, my music is very therapeutic for me, and for me, I do write about love lost in a lot. I think that's the main thing that seeps into my music is the loss of love and relationships and fighting for that.
Yeah. One of the reasons that I love using music as a way to connect with other people, this is maybe a little kind of a peek behind the curtain, but I really hope that you guys will think about taking some of these tools and maybe even doing them, running this exercise with your family, running it at work or what have you. One of the things I love about music is that it helps those of us who are non-musicians, mere mortals, it helps us sometimes access some feelings that we wouldn't be able to express otherwise. Jeremy talked a little bit about this in his opening. Right? If you asked me to write a song about my wife, that's really intimidating. I would just kind of balk at that and say, I can't do that. I'm not going to write a song about her. If you asked me to think about a song that reminds me of her or that describes something of our relationship, now that I can do, right? And it might be one song today, and it might be a different song 6 months from now because, relationships move and et cetera. And so I'm so appreciative of music kind of giving all of us access to better express and process some of those feelings. So keep doing what you're doing. Even if you don't know it, it's helping the rest of us process too. Yeah.
Thank you, Shaq. We're all mirrors, right?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
If you need a prompt, a good prompt for a song about your wife could be, "This is how we do it." And you could go from there, just take it from that point.
Yeah.
And you've got a good bedrock for what I think could be a really nice.
Yeah. Well, and it's a double entendre, too. This is how we do it. So, yeah. No, I appreciate that. All right, well, we've got one more category left, and but we're going to do something a little bit different for this one. So, music it's special for a number of reasons. I've mentioned some of them, but, among them is that music has been a part of every known civilization throughout history. Right? Music is a part of every faith tradition, whether it's a concert at the Ryman or a worship service, right? Music is a bonding element. So our final category, it's something I know that you two have given a lot of consideration to, and for this final one, I asked you to think about a song you associate with community. Maybe a community that you're a part of, maybe community in its sort of ideal form as you'd like to see it, kind of in an aspirational sort of way. So in a little while, I'm going to ask you to share those songs. But for the time being, I'm going to actually, we're going to let our guests get about 15 minutes of intermission.